When you say the name Fnatic, the first thing you think of is winning major titles. Because two of the players in this current Fnatic lineup have won the most majors in CSGO history. Flusher and JW have won 3 majors, a feat that no other team in history has matched. And what's more, when they were together with Olaf Meister and with Crims, these 4 players won back-to-back majors in 2015 and were 4 members of what many consider to be the greatest CSGO team of all time, along with Pronax as their in-game leader. But what makes this lineup of Fnatic so interesting is that while 4 of those 5 players were in the greatest team of all time, they have a 5th player in Dennis who wasn't part of that team. And so in Dennis's era, without Pronax, the in-game leader, has been a very different style of Fnatic. And this Fnatic has had its own success. When they got together this 5-man lineup, they won the first 6 tournaments they played in. And they came into the first major they were playing together as a 5-man lineup, MLG Columbus, as the favorite. Many people thought they were going to win 7 tournaments in a row and become major champions again. But actually, they didn't win the major. They didn't even make the semi-finals. This lineup has actually never made the final of a major. They've made a couple of semi-finals. They've been a very dynamic team, a very dangerous team, a very explosive team, but they've actually never won tournaments since that run of 6 tournaments. And so the major for this 5-man lineup was actually the beginning of the end for them. And they've never been as good since the major. So coming into the major now, even if some of those players, Olaf Meister, Flusher, they're legendary players. They're players who we're used to seeing lift the major trophy, and we expect them to be there on the last day, the last 2 days of a major, competing for the title. No one knows if this Fnatic team can win a major. No one knows if this style of play, this extreme approach to the game, which is very much based on a much more individualistic approach to the game. They're not about having those mid-round calls that Pronax would make and basic tactics and then people having more set roles. They're a team where players are so talented, have been star players at different points in their time. They switch up who does what role. They switch up who the dominant player in the team is. They can individually, within a round, within a play, have a lot of autonomy, and a player can make something magical happen, but in doing so, he doesn't always know what his teammate's about to do, and he has to just play off that. And there's a level of improvisation there. When Fnatic plays, it's more like jazz. They're players who are riffing, they're coming up with something, they're trying to do something creative and express their talent, but it's all about, are we on the same page at the same moment? Can guys play off what was just done before, or does a cool play early on lead to something which doesn't close out the round at the end of the game? There isn't that tactical underpinning, there isn't that structure that other teams have. And so in that sense, Fnatic is a much more of a wild card, much more unpredictable, even to themselves. And their big problem is, back when they were winning the 6 tournaments in a row in this era, they at least could look at their team and say, we have some of the best players in the world. Our individual approach can work because we have the individuals that can work. At the moment, they can't really say that as much. Their individuals are all a bit more limited. They're still very talented players. They still are going to put kills on the board and make plays and be dangerous to opponents. But at the moment, that's the main quality. They're dangerous. They're an upset team. They're someone that no one really wants to play against. But they're also not someone where anyone looks at them and says, we can't beat this team. This team is got the aura around them that they used to have, where somehow they'll always find a way to win. They don't have that anymore. They've been stripped of that. And not only are they trying to rebuild the confidence in themselves to believe that they're a team that could win a major, but they don't even have the basis to know they can do it, because this 5-man lineup wasn't the one that won the major, and it was a very different style of play of Fnatic when they were winning those majors. So traditionally, the star player of Fnatic is Olaf Meister, Olaf M. This is the player where everyone remembers at his peak in 2015. Not only was he the MVP that was winning them back-to-back majors, but he was someone whose ability to have impact on the game might be the highest we've ever seen in CSGO, because he wasn't just the big fragger, which he was. He wasn't just the guy you could rely upon game in and game out to put up huge numbers and be a star player. More importantly than all of that, he was the best playmaker in all of Counter-Strike. There are certain maps of that era that they were either very good on, like Cobblestone, where it was all based on how he would play. He would push out onto that B platform, he would create a favorable duel, he would move around a smoke, he would navigate to find the counter-terrorist, and he would kill 1 or 2 people and open that site up entirely. And from that, then Fnatic looked like this good tactical team that could run a great T-side. That was one of their best maps. Then you go to one of their worst maps, Train. They were able to get so many wins on training and so many key close matches because he would go out of that main T entrance, and they had the area that to this day is called Olaf, where he would push forwards there. Again, he would take duels, he would play his correct ranges, he would be the person where by putting him there, the opponent always knows they have to deal with him and they have to be ready to battle him, and that can sometimes open up the other side, or it sets up how we're going to trigger the execute onto the site that Olaf is on. And so all of Fnatic was based around the idea that we have both the best player in the world and the best playmaker. And so he created the initial conditions that then a Pronax would read and then make the correct call for what the other players in the team would do. The problem they have in Fnatic at the moment is Olafmeister is not the same Olafmeister of years ago. He's playing against different opponents, and his ability to be as dynamic a playmaker isn't quite there as much. He's still a good fragger. He's still someone who has those flashes of brilliance where he reads the game and makes something happen, but he can't do it every round. He can't do it every game. And so he's still one of the titans of the game. He's still a name that you'll always want to watch play. But can he match up to the levels of yesteryear when there's guys now like Nico, like coldzera, who they can make the same claim, like they're the best players in the world. They're the guys who have the dominant impact. One of the defining players of Fnatic through their entire legacy has been flusha. He's been one of the best players in the team the entire time that they've been on these runs through majors, through top tournament finishes, winning titles. And the interesting thing about him is, I don't know if he was ever the best player in Fnatic, but he was always one of the best players, and he's always been someone who has a fantastic feel for the game. His sense of where to be, and then what angle and what range to take a fight at, can make him look like one of the most skilled players in the world. Yet in terms of pure accuracy or pure ability to hit a headshot, I don't know if he would rank in the top 5, the top 10 in that respect. But in terms of how effective he is at setting himself up to get the kills, he's one of the best to ever do it. And there's a reason why at majors, he has some of the best statistics that have ever been seen in Counter-Strike. Because this guy is someone where not only does he understand his own level of play and how to execute that style in the game, but he's someone who in the big games you rely upon to play at a very high level. He seems like a player who doesn't have fear. He's someone where he's going to make plays, he's going to make the opponent react to him, adapt to him, and as such, he's not someone who has to worry so much about what the opponent's going to do, what their answer is going to be. He forces them. He is the question that they have to come up with an answer to. So the rock of Fnatic throughout the last 2 eras of success, one of my favorite players to watch is Crims. And the reason why is because when you want to teach someone the basics of Counter-Strike, if you wanted to take a young player or a developing player and tell him this is the professional player to watch to take your game to a higher level, wherever that might be, you would show him how Crims plays the game. Because he plays the game without any flashiness. He plays the game without having to go for the most difficult shots, without having to put himself in tough situations that require some incredible skill display to escape. Instead, what he does is he puts himself in the position for his team that's going to be the most fundamentally sound. And he's going to take a battle at the range that's the easiest to win it at. And he's going to take a fight where he can gain information, where he can get a simple kill against an opponent, where he can pull back to an even more advantageous position. And as such, in the middle of a round, Crims is someone who sets Fnatic up to be a team that can win games. Because where you have these flashy players, you have flusha, you have Olafmeister, you have Dennis who can pull out crazy highlights, Crims is just the consistency. He's the metronome that goes at that same rate over and over, and behind all the stars and all the flashy plays of Fnatic, he's that through line that keeps them at a certain level, and then the superstar plays and the playmaking of the others create from the base that he's established. And he's someone where you put him into those clutch situations and somehow he just always knows what the next play to make is. And he's ice cool in them. He doesn't ever seem to get rattled by opponents, and he just takes each situation as it comes. And if he faces a 1-on-3, he figures out how to make the first kill to make it a 1-on-2. If he's in a tough 1-on-1, he figures out, how do I make it so that I can battle this guy and take an average level shot against maybe one of the best players, and therefore be able to win a round against someone where if I was in a straight up aim duel where we have to hit a headshot, maybe they'd be better than me. And he is the master of doing that. And so that consistency is a quality that very few players have been able to maintain over as many years as Crims have. And it's been especially vital to a team like Fnatic that's so flamboyant, especially in this era, and with players who want to do unpredictable things and be playmakers, to have that consistent rock where you know what you're going to get from him, and he's going to play out each situation the correct way so his teammates know what to expect from him.